We have news coming in. Veteran journalist Mark Tully, who was a chronicler of India and an acclaimed author, is no more. He breathed his last at a private hospital today in Delhi. Mark Tully was 90 years old. The award-winning journalist was ailing for some time and had been admitted to the Max Hospital in Saket for the past week. Tully was born in Calcutta, which is now, of course, Kolkata, on October 24th in 1935. Mark Tully was the chief of bureau for the BBC New Delhi for 22 years. He was an acclaimed author. He was also the presenter of the BBC Radio 4 programming called Something Understood. He was knighted in 2002 and received the Padma Bhushan from the Government of India in 2005. Tully has written several books about India, including No Full Stops in India, India in Slow Motion, and also The Heart of India. And joining us right now is India Today's Rajdeep Sardesai. Rajdeep, he was a man who was not from India, but no one else could be more Indian than him.
Absolutely, Anjali. In fact, if you told him that he was not from India, he would have said, no, I'm very much Indian. In a sense, Mark Tully was a bridge builder. He built a remarkably durable relationship between his listeners in England and in India and across the world. He grew up in an age when radio, remember, was the principal medium of communication. So Mark Tully was not seen, but was heard by millions. And he completely immersed himself in the life and times of India through a very difficult period at times. Remember, he was turfed out of the country during the emergency by Mrs. Gandhi, and yet he was the first to report when he came back on Mrs. Gandhi's tragic death in 1984 in an assassination. So his love affair with India continued through all the ups and downs. And I think it was that love affair that gave him a distinctive voice. The fact that he was so immersed in India, its way of life, both reflected in his radio broadcasts as well as in his writings. And in that sense, he will be much missed. He was perhaps the last connect with that entire era where being in love with India was part of being the great Anglophiles. And that's exactly who Sir Mark Tully was, someone who really travels the length and breadth of this country because of his curious mind, wanting to discover every nuance of India.
Right. Rajdeep, do tell us something about him as an author as well. As a journalist, we have known much about him, but for those who haven't had the opportunity to read his books, what can you tell us about the author and the man?
Anjali, in a way, Mark Tully's writings flowed from his reporting. He was the classical reporter who liked to go on the ground. Even when the Babri Masjid was demolished in 1992, Tully Saab was there on the ground documenting it for the BBC. And then he used that reportage, what he did on radio, to write books on India, to look at the India around him. It was primarily a reporter chronicling the times in which we lived, and therefore No Full Stops in India, which is probably his best book, was a book that suggested how India was changing, how the kind of new forces that were emerging in this country. And in that sense, he was very prescient because he could see the important role that religion was playing in politics. He could see the various shades which perhaps we sitting in India took for granted. But this was the genius of Mark Tully, that he would look at the little things of life that perhaps many of us living in this country missed out on. So his writing was a reflection of his reportage and his deep desire to understand the complexities of India.
Right. Thank you, Rajdeep. Perhaps sometimes you need a third eye, a sight which is not colored by indigenous, and that is what Mark Tully was for journalism in India.